8-year-long civil and criminal probe in the United States. 4-year-long import ban on its manufacturing facilities here in India for supplies to the US. Admissions to felony charges. A $500 million settlement fine and a very strict consent decree. But with all this, are the troubles over for ranbaxy? We are joined here by Mr. Arun Shawnee, Managing Director of ranbaxy, to talk about what the company went through and the road ahead. Thanks a lot, Mr. Shawnee, for talking to cnbctv18. Are the troubles over for ranbaxy here? We understand there is a fresh probe that has been ordered by the Drug Controller General of India here in the manufacturing facilities for ranbaxy. What are the sort of dialogues are you having with the Drug Controller now?
I recognize that there were issues in the past. I can assure you that ranbaxy has taken all measures to make sure that they don't recur again in the future. We have invested more than $300 million since 2009 in upgrading our facilities, making sure that there are good systems and procedures in place, training people, hiring the best consultants in the world to build skill sets at ranbaxy. Also, I'm not aware of any probe being ordered by local authorities on ranbaxy.
But we understand they are in constant dialogue with the company and they have initiated a probe.
I have meetings, regular meetings with all the stakeholders, including the government. We are cooperating with them. We provide all information that is requested of us. We will be happy to provide all information that any government agency is seeking from us.
If we go back to the settlement that you've signed with the US FDA, you have agreed that you issued adulterated drugs between 2005 and 2006 in the US. You've agreed that one of these drugs, Sotrit, it had failed accelerated dissolution stability test, but you continued selling it for another 13 months. You've accepted that gabapentin in 2007, certain batches for testing out of specifications had unknown impurities and would not maintain shelf life. These were also some of the drugs that were sold in India also at that point in time. How do ranbaxy claim, and with what certainty, that the drugs that were sold in India were not adulterated and substandard as you have accepted in the US?
A pharmaceutical company is expected to operate under CGMP conditions. CGMP stands for Current Good Manufacturing Practices. In ranbaxy context, the delayed testing of stability data was a non-GMP activity. So the data that was generated of delayed stability testing was a non-GMP data. The drugs that were put on the market in the US at that time, based on delayed testing of stability samples data, were described as adulterated. Does that make the drugs in the US substandard or contaminated or spurious? The clear answer is no. The definition of the word adulterated in the US context is very different from the definition of the drug as adulterated in the Indian context. So we have to understand.
Sir, if I may just interrupt. In the press release of Department of Justice, they have said that when companies sell adulterated drugs, they undermine the integrity of FDA's approval process and may cause patients to take drugs that are substandard, ineffective, or unsafe.
But in ranbaxy context, the adulteration was because of the data that was generated on delayed testing of stability samples. That was the context relevant to ranbaxy.
You have accepted that you were selling drugs which had failed stability testing, which were testing out of specification, had unknown impurities. Doesn't that lead to drugs which would eventually may not be harmful or unsafe, but may be ineffective?
We have on record FDA advising the patients in the US to continue taking ranbaxy drugs because they discovered ranbaxy drugs were of good quality. So there was nothing wrong with the quality of the drugs in the US. There was, I'm repeating, the expression adulterated has a definite meaning in the US context, which is not the same as in India or anywhere else in the world.
Correct. But in the 2008 press release, FDA had mentioned, and I'm just quoting them, that while this action does not involve removing products from the market, FDA has no evidence to date that ranbaxy has shipped defective products. So at that point in time, to date, they did not have enough evidence.
And
but
since
obviously, in 2013, when you signed the settlement, in that meantime, the probe, they had come across all the issues that have been highlighted in the current press statement.
It is the delayed testing of the stability samples and delayed information that was provided to FDA. That was it. FDA, since 2008, we have not shipped any product from Devas or Ponta to the US. In 2008, FDA has gone on record telling that ranbaxy drugs are safe. There is no issue with the quality of the drugs. We have taken all measures since then to ensure that the issues that we were facing way back in 2004 and 5 are not faced again.
Agree, but there has been a case of outright fraud by the company at that point in time, which you have agreed in your statements to the US FDA and Department of Justice. That is the story for the US. The same plants were supplying those drugs in India and continue to supply drugs in India. How do you convince the people here? How do you convince the consumers here in India? You have a public interest litigation filed against ranbaxy. You have hospitals which are taking independent action, advising their doctors to take caution before they advise ranbaxy drugs.
We have signed consent decree with FDA. We have settled with US DOJ. In case of FDA, we will go through the consent decree process. And once we go through the consent decree process, we will be back in business from Devas and Ponta in the future. In case of DOJ, we provided in 2011 and took a big knock in 2011. 2012, we performed ahead of expectations. In 2013, we are performing as per our targets, and we remain firm on our guidance of $120 billion rupees in 2013. We have very aggressive growth plans for ranbaxy also in the US, in India. We have key markets, key therapeutic areas. We have continued to make investments in our manufacturing. We have very exciting portfolio in our R&D. And above all, I also have a team that will execute on all these plans. So this is the implication of the DOJ and FDA. Okay. Now I come to the question on hospitals. By and large, in India, all hospitals are prescribing ranbaxy drugs. I respect internal processes of all the hospitals. I will provide continuously information that they seek to build confidence in ranbaxy drugs and ranbaxy medicines. And I am sure that they will continue to prescribe, as they have been doing up till now, ranbaxy medicines.
If we talk about falsification of data, you've also admitted that false, fictitious and fraudulent statements were given to FDA in the annual reports of 2006 and 2007 regarding the dates of stability testing at Devas for certain products. Has this sort of fraud, this part of fraud been taken care at ranbaxy? Have you been able to identify and pin down the specific departments who were involved, specific employees who were involved, and have you been able to oust that entire bit out of the company?
I've said, I'm assuring that we have taken all corrective measures to ensure that the same is not repeated again. We have strengthened our quality department. We have staffed appropriately, so it's no longer understaffed. We have improved the infrastructure in our quality department. All the issues that we faced in the past, I assure you, will not be the issues the company will not face in the future.
So basically people involved in that aspect of the business have been moved out of the company.
Yeah. None of the people who occupied critical positions way back in that time are working with ranbaxy today.
So
it's altogether a new company. The board of ranbaxy is newly constituted. The executive team at ranbaxy is newly constituted. The executives in critical positions are completely new.
So that entire thing has been changed, and it's a new management and it's a new team, you're saying, that is working at ranbaxy right now?
Oh yes, and I can assure you we have a very nice aggressive growth plans for the business of the company.
Right. You also saw a lot of attrition at senior level in the recent last 1 or 2 years. Have you filled all those positions? Is it all completely properly staffed at the higher levels? Your head of legal, head of R&D?
All the critical positions have been appropriately staffed. Well, there would be positions that will fall vacant because either people retire or they resign, and we will quickly fill them up. All the critical positions in ranbaxy are fully staffed.
But does that mean, with this entire change in the management and the way it is run, also after what the company has gone through, Daiichi Sankyo has taken more control, does that mean the independence of the management here in India has gone and it's more driven by Daiichi Sankyo?
This is ranbaxy. This is our issue. This is our company. Ranbaxy is a very well-known brand. It is the most globalized pharmaceutical company from India. It is the most globalized pharmaceutical brand from India. And we have earned, over the years, respect from stakeholders such as regulators, doctors, patients, from all over the world. So ranbaxy will remain, I think, autonomous in that respect, because we have earned that name and reputation for ourselves.
What really compelled ranbaxy to get this settlement with the US FDA? 2, your promoters have said they would sue the former shareholders and maybe former management of the company. Do you think with this settlement you've actually jeopardized the legal action that the company would want to take against the former shareholders?
Okay. Let me answer the part 1 of your question. Why did we settle? We had 2 options way back at that time. We could have continued fighting with DOJ, or we could have settled. In the interest of all the stakeholders, we decided to settle with DOJ. As to the question number 2, I think you should be addressing that to Daiichi Sankyo.
With the past behind, are all the concerns on quality for ranbaxy over? More on this after the break. Well, back. Let me ask you questions very specific to ranbaxy. Are there still regulatory issues? Are there still quality compliance issues at ranbaxy, even after you say you have changed the processes, you've changed the people, and it's a different company right now? The issue of Lipitor recall is not very old. It happened when you were through this process. Are the systems yet not completely clean?
For that to be answered, let me set the context and explain what a good quality, what safety means in the pharmaceutical context. Okay. It is good to have good machines, it is good to have good quality of the product, but it is also reflected in management behavior in a quality conscious company. What does the management of the company do? When we say that we are very, very quality conscious, do we mean that we will never have a rejection in our manufacturing batches? No, of course we will. Any manufacturing company will have rejections. But a quality conscious company, what will it do? It will get into the root causes of why that rejection took place. Make sure that they take corrective actions. Make sure that the same issues do not repeat again. That would be one reflection of a quality conscious company. The second reflection, very important reflection of a quality conscious company is to, like when we say we operate from a paradigm of quality and patient safety first, a recall, especially when it is a voluntary recall, is a reflection of a very responsible behavior of a quality conscious company. It is putting above profits, above sales, patient safety. The Lipitor recall that you have spoken of is a reflection of a very responsible attitude of ranbaxy, which reflects a good quality behavior. It was a voluntary recall.
Correct.
That recall did not come because it was an FDA enforcement.
Agreed.
It did not come because it was a patient complaint or a whistleblower. It was a voluntary action of recall.
But after you went to the US FDA with your resubmissions for Lipitor and they cleared it, they have yet not cleared Mohali for the formulations. What explains that?
Now, we have supplied atorvastatin from Mohali.
That was before the recall.
After the recall, it's a business strategy. We have a business strategy.
Initially, you had stated that you would be moving atorvastatin formulations, and you did move. You had said you would be moving a lot more of that. More products would start coming out of Mohali. But that has not happened. Does that point to some issues there? Because we understand there has been a probe in Mohali as well by the US FDA.
No, we continue to make, even in 2013, submissions from Mohali.
So you're saying there has not been any probe by the US FDA in Mohali in the recent times after it got approval?
We continue to make our regulatory submissions from Mohali, and as and when we get approvals, we will commercialize those products from Mohali.
You have been very insistent that valsartan and valsite FTFs will come to the company. But what explains this huge delay in valsartan? It's already off patent. Doesn't that point to some serious checks by the US FDA in your plants, in your filing submissions back again?
This is proprietary information, and I would be very careful with that. I only will reconfirm, it is my belief that we continue to have exclusivities of valsartan and valsite.
There have been serious issues with the company in the past. Is it making US FDA to be even more critical now when each and every product by the company goes to US FDA?
We will cooperate with not only US FDA, with every regulatory agency of the world. Whatever information they will seek from us on the products that we have submitted in those countries, we will provide.
What is the status or talks of resolution on the consent decree? Where are you with the US FDA on the consent decree?
We are executing on a consent decree, and so far we have not had a single lapse since we signed the consent decree in December 2011, which became official in January 2012. We are progressing in execution of the consent decree as per our plans.
Is there any possibility that Ponta Sahib and Devas may not come out of the US FDA scanner even after the consent decree is over? Have you written off those plants for US supplies?
I have every reason to believe that Devas and Ponta will be back in business in the US.
Some of the submissions and some evidence also suggest that while you were selling in the US and while this entire fraud and the fraudulent data and falsification of data was happening for the US market, so was the case for all the other markets as well, where you were supplying, whether it was South Africa, whether it was Australia, or it was to WHO.
I can confirm to you that all the products that are on the market in all these countries are supported by adequate data and regulatory submissions.
But have you not received...
All the products would be of very good quality, complying to all the regulations of the countries in which we sell them.
We understand that most of these international regulators are actually very closely scrutinizing the US FDA and DOJ settlement documents that you signed and the settlement based on what were the charges. And they may, I'm not saying they have, but they may look at a re-inspection. Have you had any discussions with the international regulators now?
In fact, after September 2008, many regulators have come and inspected our plants. In fact, WHO has inspected our plants and cleared. MHRA from UK has inspected our plants and cleared. Health Canada has done that. TGA Australia has done that. South Africa has confirmed that they have no problems with the quality of safety and quality of medicines of ranbaxy. Irish Medicines Board has done that. So there are several corners of the world. There is a testimonial that they consider ranbaxy drugs safe and efficacious for the markets we are putting them in.
Have you ascertained what sort of losses in terms of financial impact that the company has borne in the last, let's say, 5 to 6 years that you have been through this import alert, now the settlement fee, investments into the company to change systems?
Yeah. We made a provision in 2011, and that would not be again hitting us in 2013. Yes, we would be strengthening the systems and procedures that we have with fresh investments. That will be ongoing investments that we will make to make sure that we continue to operate from very high standards that all of our stakeholders expect from us.
How about the opportunity losses? You had to forfeit some of your key FTFs, you had to submit some of the ANDAs back, plus some approvals have not been coming.
I think we have monetized all our key FTFs, and that is the historical record, and we will continue. It is my belief to monetize our key FTFs.
But you did forfeit 3 of your FTFs, right?
I clarified that the ones that we had forfeited will not have material business impact on ranbaxy.
And they haven't, you say?
Yes.
How do you ascertain the loss that you have seen on the brand image of ranbaxy? You may say you are a changed company now, but out in the market, the perception is wavering at this point in time. How do you ascertain the loss in this brand, and how do you intend to rebuild this?
Okay. Ranbaxy has been the torchbearer of pharmaceutical industry in India. Ranbaxy is a globalized pharmaceutical company. It is the most globalized pharmaceutical brand. It has earned the trust and faith and belief of all the stakeholders, regulators, doctors, patients from all over the world, we have demonstrated innovation. This trust, I still see, will continue.
But what has come out after you have settled with the US, what happened between 2004 and maybe 2006 and 7 has actually hit that trust point for ranbaxy brand?
And I'm telling you, I am reiterating, we operate from very high standards of professionalism and integrity.
That's now. But people are questioning what happened in the company in the
building
past.
of the brand is from now.
So are you looking at rebranding of the company?
The ranbaxy brand is the most trusted brand, even today. I don't see any reason why we should be rechristening ranbaxy.
Even the industry at par is also pinpointing and saying that what ranbaxy did was not right. It's a wake-up call for the industry. We need to change. And some also point out that the ranbaxy issue has actually put bad light on the entire generics industry. Does the company take onus of that?
Yeah. I recognize that there have been debates in the recent past. I recognize that there have been issues with the company which we have already set right. Very, very responsible companies such as ranbaxy have earned India the reputation of becoming pharmacy to the world. It is my sincere belief that the same responsible companies, through their high standards of operation, will continue to build the credibility of India remaining pharmacy to the world. I'm very confident of that.
But even this is pushing the US FDA to relook at things, to make their systems more stringent. And there's also been a congressional inquiry called into the US FDA. Do you see a lot more changing in the US market also for ranbaxy and overall for the generic industry?
I have a feeling it's uniform for all the companies, whether they are in India or they are in US. I don't see any discrimination there.
How about your investors? The company has lost almost 30% market cap in the last 2 years. How do you build that confidence back into the investors who obviously also have the same issues in mind?
The credibility that ranbaxy will build once again with all the stakeholders will bring back that value.
So the corporate governance issue that investors have in mind will be taken care of, you're saying?
I think it should be considered the thing of the past.
Fair amount of confidence in the new built company. We wish you luck with your endeavors and we hope things are set right for ranbaxy.